So first of all, I'd love to know how many of you have heard of Pop Tropica? Okay, great. So a mix. Anybody know Diary of a Wimpy Kid? Excellent. So you probably have children between the range of 8 and 12, I'm guessing. So I'm here from the Family Education Network. Family Education Network used to be a division of Pearson, and Pearson sold FEN back in May of 2015. FEN was acquired by Sandbox & Company, which is a private equity company that specifically invests in products and services that help kids learn better, be entertained better, or that help people become lifelong learners. When I first heard about FEN, I thought, how did I not know that this was in my backyard? Literally, it's about 5 miles away from where I live. Because Pop Tropica is one of the most popular kids' virtual worlds out there. Not only that, but Pop Tropica has been around for 8 years, which, as you know, in this space is approximately an ice age. In addition, there's FunBrain. So FunBrain is an educational gaming site that is primarily accessed through schools. I found out while doing research for this talk that FunBrain started in 1997. Many of our players are younger than FunBrain. As far as I go, I am not younger than FunBrain, although that would be nice. But I have been in the games industry for almost 25 years. I started as a playtester at a company called Microprose when I was in college, and have held a number of positions in companies like Microprose, Comcast, AOL, big companies and small companies. So the chance to combine my love of games, my experience in media and entertainment, as well as the responsibility that I feel as a mom to creating high-quality educational and entertainment content for kids, was truly a dream. It was something that I could not pass up. Now, when I came on to FEN Kids, which was 3 months ago yesterday, so almost to the day, I found a picture that was a little bleak, maybe not quite as bad as Pelican Rock Prison. But as I mentioned, FEN had been sold to Sandbox & Company back in May. So you had a team that had gone through the sales process. Any of you who've been through that know how difficult that is. That was adjusting to new owners, and that had a site and a product that, in FunBrain's case, for example, hadn't been updated in probably about 10 years. The team was exhausted, and it was a really interesting challenge. So I want to tell you a little bit more about kind of what I learned as part of that challenge, and hopefully help share some lessons that you can take along with your business to help you manage your business better. So the first part of kind of FEN's journey was understanding what is happening in the world around us. Understanding what's going on in the kids' gaming space. What's changing quickly? Where do we expect changes to happen? What are the other things going on that we need to know about that aren't internal to FEN, but instead are external? It's really kind of looking at our map. We partnered with Play Science, who did some great research for us. We also looked at a ton of other research out there, and really wanted to engage experts who could help us understand how the kids space was changing, not only how it changed yesterday, but where we should expect it to change tomorrow. Because one of the key messages that I keep telling my team is, I don't necessarily want to know about what worked or didn't work yesterday. Instead, let's start thinking about what we need to do for tomorrow. So let's be forward focused. Let's use our map. Let's use our vision to hopefully get ourselves to some place that's really, really cool. So we had our map. Next step was to kind of figure out where we were. Where are we on the map? If you're like me, you'll see me walking around Amsterdam with my GPS because I have the world's worst sense of direction. Sometimes finding myself on the map is actually quite a challenge, especially when I'm not in cell coverage. Where are we as FEN? Where are we going? Where do we want to get to? How do we decide where we could go and where we should go? So a lot of that involved asking the team to ask themselves some really hard questions. We did a very deep competitive analysis. There are people doing amazing things in this space. And I believe it's really important to understand who is really leading the way and see how you can You can learn from what they're doing. See how the best people in the world are approaching some of the unique challenges that we experience. We also had some pretty critical self-evaluation. So for example, we have 47 islands in Poptropica. An island is a contained adventure. As it turns out, much like you would feel if you went into a grocery store and saw 47 varieties of mayonnaise, that's a little overwhelming for a new user. You know, there's no indication, gosh, this is a really good island for beginners. Gosh, this is a really tough island. We're overwhelming the kids who want to play with choice. And not really learning that kind of information required us to have an open mind. But it also required some insights from experts, and it required asking tough questions. You know, for example, what's our bounce rate? Where do we see most people going? How are they getting there? Why are they picking those islands? And at the end of the day, is that the best experience for them to have? I also had individual discussions with the key contributors in the Poptropica team. I set myself a goal to have a one-on-one with everyone in the company. I've not quite made it yet, but that is something that, you know, just hearing from people, what are your problems? What are your frustrations? It's an invaluable dialogue, because what you'll probably start to find, what I started to find when I was talking to our team, we have about 50 people in the company, just so you know kind of how monumental it is to sit down and have 50 one-on-ones. We started hearing some similar feedback, repetitive themes, the same information from people again and again and again. So once we started collecting this information about what's going on in the big world, and then what's going on in our FEN world, there were a few things that started to emerge. First of all, we have something magic here. We have something amazing. We have this set of game products where we are getting millions and millions of users a month with zero marketing budget. That's insane. That's awesome. When I posted on Facebook that I was joining FEN and noted it was best known for Poptropica, I had friends come out of the woodwork to tell me how much their kids loved Poptropica. We have an amazing brand. We have a very strong team that in many cases has been with the company for 15 years. They were the ones that developed FunBrain back in 1997. So you have people who, through some pretty tough times and a lot of dot-com roller coasters, ended up sticking with this product and with this team because they love it. That's an amazing gift. We have a fantastic fan community. We have a fan community that is so big in scope and in terms of the support that they offer to other players. It really rivals anything that I have seen in my experience. And I should asterisk that with saying, I am a huge BioWare fangirl. I can show you my mobile phone case. It's got FemShep and Garrus, kind of with a little heart above the hand. So I'm familiar with a lot of the core gaming communities that are out there. I have experience in MMO development. I know about the diehard communities and how valuable they are. Looking at the FEN communities was something that was an amazing magic. For me also, as a woman in the games industry, being able to work on a product that is about 50-50 male-female was a pleasant surprise, to put it mildly. So knowing that we have this great experience for kids, that kids love, an audience that is finding us, a passionate team, an amazing helping and fan community, doing it for girls and boys, wow, what could be better, right? That was so great. Well, there's evil Dr. Hare throwing a monkey wrench into our plans. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Hare is one of the classic villains in Poptropica. There's a plot to steal all the world's carrots. It's a little involved. Go play 24 Carat Island. But really, at the end of the day, we started discovering a lot of Dr. Hares popping up too. And I think this is one really important piece of advice that I want you to take away from this experience. If you find yourself in a situation where your company needs to change, you have to be honest, not only about what is going right, but also about what is going wrong. You have to find your Dr. Hare. You have to embrace your Dr. Hare, because that's the only way you end up defeating Dr. Hare. First, we right now are using Flash and Air, And like many casual game sites, we're finding that that's an old technology in a very quickly changing world. And those were great technology choices when we made them, but they're not the best options for us now. We were part of Pearson. So for those who aren't familiar with Pearson, odds are you used a Pearson product in your youth. Pearson is a very large textbook company. Worldwide, used to own the Financial Times, used to own The Economist. It's an extraordinarily corporate culture. The session before this, I sat in on a session on entrepreneurship. We were about as far from entrepreneurship as you could get. So there wasn't, for example, any kind of direct financial reward when things went really well. It depended on how Pearson did. And if you are a game developer whose bonus depends in part on the performance of The Economist, it's a little hard to get motivated about that. There's not as much accountability. There's not as much obsessiveness. There's not as much of a feeling of, wow, I need to do this because I have this amazing opportunity and this is my baby and I'm going to make it work. Instead, it was okay, well, it's 9 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock. And so one of the challenges was how to discover that passion, how to rediscover that passion. We have some skill gaps. So when I joined the team, we didn't have anyone on the team with experience in growth marketing. That was a pretty big skill gap, to put it mildly. We don't have any systems game designers, so no one who has done traditional retention and engagement systems, another really big core skill gap. So we had to not only rediscover the team's passion, but also really restart up ourselves in terms of understanding the skills that we need and the team members that we need and how we can understand the company that we want to be, where we want to go in our treasure map, and figure out the best way to get there and who should be on that team to get there. We, as any company in the kids space, pay a lot of attention to regulatory compliance. It's really important to us that we not only follow the letter of the law, but that we earn the trust of our players, their parents, and their teachers every day. That said, when you saw some of the information Michael presented earlier, what are kids 8 to 12 playing? Candy Crush, Clash of Clans. I was shocked and horrified when I saw some of them were playing Grand Theft Auto 5. Hopefully they are more the exception, but apparently not. Because we want to be responsible, because we want to do the right thing, we are laboring under constraints that our competition doesn't. That's really frustrating. I was about to say something a little bit less filtered, but I remembered this was being recorded. And that was something that was, personally really, really kind of hard to wrap my head around. At the end of the day, though, and I think everybody here understands this mindset, you can get frustrated that we have all of these games that kids are playing and kind of throw up your hands and take your ball and walk away. Or you can say, okay, we want to do better. We are creating not only a brand, but also a culture. We are creating a product experience that we want parents to constantly feel good about, that we want teachers to constantly feel good about, and that we want kids to love. So yeah, it is frustrating that we have to compete against a Candy Crush or a Clash of Clans, but we have a different mission. We have a different vision. We have a different definition of what our treasure is on our treasure map. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't have it any other way. And that really gets to identity. So not only, what's our identity in terms of competing against your kings of the world, but are we making games or are we telling stories? Because Pearson, as you probably have guessed, is not a game company. It's not a company that does game development. It's not a company where you'll come in and see people playing, the next edition of Pandemic over lunch. It's not going to happen. For me, one of the things that got me so excited when I heard about this opportunity is I have passionately believed that the best way to tell a story is to make a game. So if you look up the Art of Video Games exhibit at the Smithsonian, which is the National Museum in the United States, I was actually interviewed, and in my interview, pretty much unprompted, I started talking about my Commander Shepherd and the value of stories and how those stories really help people have experiences that otherwise would never be available to them. If that kind of mindset, if that kind of experience can make an impact on an adult, imagine what it does to a 10-year-old. I didn't have to imagine because I was that 8-year-old or 10-year-old, going through the jungle with Pitfall and rescuing civilians and Defender and even, heaven forbid, moving their ET around and falling into pits to get the M&Ms and trying to levitate up. That is who I am. And so when I came in, I was so excited to help the team understand we're not making games. We're not telling stories. We are telling stories through games. And even in our educational side, even FunBrain, there's so much opportunity to motivate learning by telling stories, by opening up new content and giving kids a reason to get really excited about what comes next and to try that math problem one more time because they want to find out what comes next. So we understand our treasure. We've got our map. We see evil Dr. Hare lurking in the shadows. What's next? It's really planning the adventure. So one of the things that I came to, and this gets back to story, is the hero's journey and the stages of the hero's journey. And with any great adventure, you need to cross the threshold. How do we turn the FEN team into the heroes of the adventure? How do we empower, excite, and motivate them? How do we banish Dr. Hare permanently and really take this start, these first 90 days, and deliver on our vision of creating the best educational and entertainment company for kids in the world? And that really, at the end of the day, gets back to people. So it's being able to tell your team what they should be focused on. It's being able to ask them hard questions and know that it's okay when they give you the hard answers. It's being open to the things that you don't want to hear. It's also understanding your core values and making sure that everything you do echoes those core values. And I'll give you a great example. We moved to Agile development methodology at the beginning of the year. This was insanity, absolute insanity, because on the first Monday of the year, we moved to a brand new office. The next day, that Tuesday and Wednesday, we flew everyone in the company in, hadn't been done in years, and had everything stop and had Agile development training for 2 full days. First thing we did in the beginning of the year. And then we said, okay, we're not doing this halfway, we're ripping off the Band-Aid. We are starting Sprint 1 on Monday. So by the time everybody got back, we have people on the west coast of the United States, which is about as far from Boston as Amsterdam is, for perspective. We had also made the decision to allow our teams to self-select, which meant that people got to decide what Scrum teams they were on. We didn't even say, hey Jen, you're a great HTML programmer, so we need you on this Scrum team. We counted on our team members to make that decision for themselves. Scariest management decision I've ever made, I kid you not. But what it did is we said to everybody, look, you are part of this journey. You are part of this team. You are as important. What you decide is as important as anything that Jen decides, or Jeff Kinney decides, or Jeff Faulkner decides. You're part of the adventure. You're coming along with us on this hero's journey. And every day, we look for ways to reinforce that message. Because when you think about the overall lesson of the 90 days here at FEN, and the overall lesson that you should all take away is, if you don't have a team to go on that hero's journey with you, you're not going to get very far. Super. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here. It was really a pleasure. Thank you all for staying awake as well, especially after lunch.